Okay, good morning, everybody. Glad to see you here. I assume we'll still have other people joining us on a little while. Um, Silas, you want to just introduce yourself real quickly, and then we'll do more detail, obviously, when we introduce you for the presentation, you and Erica. And so go ahead, Silas.
Thank you. My name's Sai. I've been with Althea and Hawk Networks and in the telco industry for about 8 years now. Field operations specialist, and I've been responsible for the deployment of various different networks and collaborations with communities, tribes across the states. I mean, North Carolina out to California. Deborah can certainly give a little bit of backstory on our company as well and what we do.
So we'll get into that a little bit later. Erica, you want to just say hello, and then we'll hear from you in a little while.
Sure. Hi, my name is Erica Mesker. I'm replacing Samantha Sharpman today, who's out with COVID. But yeah, I'm the Chief Development and Operating Officer at Connect Humanity. We work across communities to do investments in internet service providers and digital equity, inclusion, opportunity, whatever you prefer, activities to ensure long-term sustainability.
Great, thank you. Who else do we have that's new this morning? Anybody?
Uh, Deborah from our
Yeah,
team
I'm
as well.
sorry. Yes, Deborah. You want to just say hello real quickly, and again, we'll hear from you in a little while.
Absolutely. Just really briefly, yes, I'm CEO and co-founder of Hawk Networks, and we primarily focus on building networks in underserved areas and the technology, particularly financial technology around what makes those work and be sustainable. And of course, joined by our amazing partners, Erica from Connect Humanity. So looking forward to sharing more. Thank you so much for having us.
Sounds good. So thank you for being here this morning. And again, we'll hear from you in just a little while. Anybody else who's new this morning? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Um, I don't know if we have anybody from the broadband office this morning. I don't think Kelly is here today, so we won't hear from them. Mala, are you online yet? Mala,
Yes, I am.
there you are. So Mala, want to give us a quick update on what's happening?
Uh, except for the fact that Brendan Carr has introduced the withdrawal of hotspots for E-rate to FCC for voting. So that, as well as the Wi-Fi on school buses, um, is going to be a vital blow if that gets passed. Because then we will not get funding through E-rate for hotspots or for Wi-Fi on school buses. But that's still being voted, so we can still keep our fingers crossed, hoping that FCC does not approve it. But looking at the fact that there is a Republican majority there, it's likely, more likely to pass um, the vote, and that won't get funded through E-rate. So that's one not so good news. The other good news.
I knew you were going to talk about that first thing this morning, Mala.
The other good news that I would like to share is the fact that we've been working with the Valley Assistance Service and several other organizations on a project called Potluck. And that's what each of us brings to the table. That's why it's called Potluck. And this is going to provide a telemedicine van in the I-19 corridor and in rural Santa Cruz County. And we will be the first showcase for this is going to be on Friday, September 12th. I will put a flyer in the chat as soon as I'm done talking. It's going to be at the Chubac Golf Resort and Spa. There's going to be a grand opening for this, and then the van will be showcased, and it will have telehealth services, um, equipment, and stuff that can be taken around all along the I-19 corridor as well as in Santa Cruz County. So just wanted to let folks know if they're interested, if they're around in that area. It would be lovely if you could go and see it. And of course, all donations are welcome to make this a successful and self-sustaining project. So I'll put the flyer in the chat as soon as yeah.
Thanks, Mala.
No other updates.
Okay. And let's see, who else do we have here? Anybody else from the State Library here this morning?
Hi, Steve. I can
There
give a
she
quick
is.
update.
Hi, Megan.
Hi. So we're getting ready to wrap up the federal fiscal year at the state library too, and we're sort of just waiting to see what happens with the federal budget. That'll determine a lot of our projects and what we'll be able to do next year with digital inclusion work. But I know Anthony's got a couple of things in the works that he's hoping to announce during Digital Inclusion Week in October. But otherwise, we're mostly just keeping an eye on the federal budget.
Aren't
And
we all? Aren't we
yeah.
all? With our fingers crossed, fingers and
Yeah.
toes crossed.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Megan. Anything else from the State Library? Anthony, I think you're online. Anything you wanted to add?
I think Megan covered it, but like she said, I'll probably have more to share on Digital Inclusion Week. So,
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, thanks, Anthony. So again, I don't think anybody's here from the broadband office this morning. So let's just jump right into our presentations this morning. Oh, Erin, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Erin Larandos, formerly of a lot of the places that you just talked about. I just have one more update for Digital Inclusion Week, if that's okay.
Sure.
The other coalition here in Arizona, ADEN, is partnering with the Collaborative Community, which is a project of Kyla Williams-Tate, who is out of the president's office in Cook County, so in Illinois. She does a session monthly that highlights artists and creators that also happen to be in the digital inclusion space. And members of ADEN are invited to be featured during a Digital Inclusion Week special Arizona showcase that she is hosting with us. So I'll drop some information in the chat and happy to answer any questions folks have on it, but I just wanted to bring that into this space as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's just move on to our presentations. Any other announcements this morning before we move on to our presentation today?
Steve, Mark Goldstein, just that the broadband office, I believe, is due to submit their final BEAD recommendations today to NTIA. I don't know if that will become public, if what we saw as a draft report a week ago then becomes a final report. So kind of expecting we will see, that. And again, they also had a public comment period. I'm not sure if those comments will be publicly released, but I believe that period's now closed. But today is the day I believe they are committed to submit.
Yeah, I think isn't that the federal deadline today?
For most of the states and territories, Texas, with their $3 billion, got about a month extension. Alaska, where I have one in, they got a week or week and a half extension. So most states are to submit today.
Yeah, I thought I saw several states that had gotten extensions.
Yeah, there may be others, but definitely Alaska and Texas have extensions.
Okay, thanks. Lucy, I see you're online now. Want to give us an update?
Hi, everybody. Just really quickly, we do have our next. So my name is Lucy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Force for Health Network. I have been co-leading a statewide task force called the Health and Education Task Force for the AZBSN. So basically anybody on this network who has a deeper interest in health and education impacts due to digital connectivity, come on board. We meet every other Thursday. So the next meeting is September 11th. And there's been some date shifts here. So the big things around this next meeting are, number one, Erin, I talked to Elena, and we want to do something like do a badge for Digital Inclusion Week. So this next September 11th meeting would be awesome to just give some feedback on that. We'll be finalizing the date for the My Healthy Broadband Live, which maybe we just do the week before, Digital Inclusion Week, just to kind of kick it all off together. And then we will be launching some things with the libraries and schools regarding Fit Family Force so that folks know how important it is to be digitally connected. So we just invite everybody to come on in. If you're part of this network, you do have a free group leader membership over here, but you don't have to join. You can just join a traditional Zoom, and the information is here in this link that I'm about to press send on with my email. So thanks, Steve.
Yeah. And Lucy, just so you know, I actually started working on getting the AZBSN webpage, and I have some things I need from you and some help, but I hope to get that done today and tomorrow. I know I've said that before, but I actually have started working on it, so hopefully we'll get that done.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, sure, you bet. Anybody else have any announcements before we move on? So, Silas, I don't know if you or Erica or who wants to kick it off and do introductions for you guys. Anybody have a preference?
I think Deborah would be best to take the lead here for the project at large.
Okay, so Deborah, do you want to introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you and all about your organizations, please?
Absolutely. Again, thank you for having us here today, and feel honored to be amongst so many awesome champions of broadband here in Arizona. As I had mentioned earlier, I'm CEO and co-founder of Hawk Networks. Hawk Networks often goes by.
Excuse me, Deborah. Do you need to share anything?
I hadn't planned on it. I mean,
okay, no problem.
Talk about places that y'all know about. So, but let me just give an overview, and then if we want to do a little bit more detail, so I can go through some of the mapping of what these networks are gonna look like as we kind of go. So I'll just give an overview, kick that over to him. We can get a bit more in depth, and depending on how much time you have.
Real quick before you get started, Deb, I do notice that the notes that were sent over pertain to the Pinos Altos project that we had there. So that is, of course, over the border from Green County, but it is a project that we're working on. Deb, I think you're going to be leading and talking about the Cacti Network at large, right?
Yeah, I was going to just share. We've been I think that speaks to our, our mission, which is to empower, agency within local communities to build with the community, not just for access and what that really means. And of course, Erica from Connect Humanity can share more about how that partnership aligns on that front. I think it's a great project to share the work that we're doing over on, like I said, across the border there in New Mexico. But we've actually been working in Arizona for about a year and a half or so. So to give you a bit of background, our company, Hawk Networks, also known as Althea, does a lot of work on the technology side of broadband and how we can enable communities to be part of their network, bring that value back, and also to allow people with varying incomes to do prepaid networks, have an always-on connection. So part of the system works like that. So in Phoenix, we have a retirement home community that we work with that we deliver broadband to. And they have an always-on connection, and then they pay as they go. So they can have, so this allows everybody to be connected all of the time. And a flexible payment schedule that works for those folks a bit better. And then about a year ago in Greenlee and Gila County, we worked with Dish Networks to use 28 gigahertz to set up high-speed millimeter wave wireless for those communities there that are, historically underserved or have not as many options for internet. Most of us here in a more urban, I'm actually coming from a rural area in Oregon where we're based, but a lot of us have options than one. And we know that some of those counties and areas only maybe have one option, and maybe it's not the best. So we worked to set up the kind of main 28 gigahertz links worked with the community to locate those vertical assets in wireless, and now are coming back with what we call Cacti Network, which is connecting Arizona communities through infrastructure, which was funded in part by work with Connect Humanity to build out the end in connections. We've also developed a lot of technology on the 5G and cellular space. So we'll be looking to support with private wireless and even cellular, or support public safety in those areas as well too. So that's kind of what we're doing right now, is really assessing needs of community, looking at the broadband, and then also seeing where we can add value in other ways.
Okay. Anything else? Cy, Erica, do you have anything you want to add? And then Erica, I think we're going to hear from you about your project. So anything else?
Nothing from my end, sir. I think Deb captures it and the scope of the project very well. I again thank you for giving us the opportunity to kind of work together with other interested parties and folks that play in the Arizona space.
Okay, Erica.
Sure. So again, I'm Erica Mesker, Chief Development and Operating Officer at Connect Humanity. I've been with the organization since we launched about 5 years ago. We work across the nation and have a very small international footprint in Brazil to uh, sustainably close the digital divide. So that means affordable access to high-speed internet, broadband, and then also the skills and tools to effectively use it. So we work in partnership with internet service providers, however they are incorporated, be it a co-op or private entity, nonprofit, municipality, um, to figure out what are the greatest community needs. And we do that through a widespread outreach. We work with nonprofits on the ground, educational institutions, government institutions, what have you, to ensure that community voice is represented in the planning and rollout and selection of a network if one doesn't already exist. So what that has resulted in is work with over 100 communities, mostly rural and varying levels of economic distress across the nation, to develop broadband and digital inclusion plans. So some communities already have an ISP that they work with, but the community members may not have digital skills or be able to afford devices. So we work with communities to figure out how to get people online and using the internet in a safe way and a meaningful way that enhances their lives, and also the broader goal of community economic development. Um, so we have an investment branch. We have invested 3.15 million into 5 different internet service providers, all of which are community focused. So uh, not necessarily community owned, but put the community and their needs first. One of which is Hawk Network / Althea, who's on the call here with us today. Um, and that has a very small return, but that return helps both connect humanity to be sustainable and allows us to reinvest those funds into more ISP build outs or uh, digital inclusion programming. So, one of our large programs that's currently being launched is using what we've learned on our investment into ISPs, that side of the house, using that skill set to figure out how we can sustain digital inclusion programming, which I'm sure you all know has been mostly cut from large federal funding programs, some state programs, and we've seen it on the decrease with foundations as well. So we're looking at how we can use our expertise and community partnerships to quantify the value of digital skills and digital use, to build those partnerships to reinvest in those types of skills and access, to ensure that there's a holistic cycle of people using the internet, ensuring that ISPs are sustainable through people using the internet, ensuring people can, hospitals can reduce costs because people are using online services, or municipalities can reduce costs and friction because people are paying bills like water and sewer online. So those are the kinds of partnerships we're looking to develop to find opportunities for ongoing sustainability so that we're not forever relying on grants to get people using the internet in a meaningful way. We're working with Hawk Networks across the border in New Mexico, in Pinos Altos, New Mexico, on a USDA funded broadband technology, BTA, broadband technology assistance. I forget what the A stands for. Yeah. Um, Project to again work with the community to understand their greatest needs, what internet service providers are operating in the region, what ones may be coming in through BEAD, and ensuring that prices remain affordable, that people who need it most are getting the internet, are not just placed on the back burner, and then ensuring folks have the skills to use it towards, again, economic development.
Questions, comments? Sounds like something we might be interested in. Anybody have any questions or comments? Oh, come on. I know you've got a lot of questions about the work they're doing.
Erica, Mark Goldstein. I worked closely with Samantha through Grant Management Associates and Centra WISP. You funded work on their USDA telecom loan, which is, we hope, about to close this month finally. And they also did a BEAD application and did win 10.3 million in provisional allocation. So I worked on several projects with Centra WISP, but the earliest work was funded by Connect Humanity. So thank you. It was a good relationship, and I know Centra WISP is really grateful for that help.
Yeah, we had a huge virtual celebration when we heard the provisional news.
Right. Great.
Aaron?
Hi again, everyone. I just wanted to take a second and say hello officially to the folks here. Thank you so much for sharing this. I am the former Digital Equity Program Manager here in Arizona. I was with the Arizona Commerce Authority up until the end of June when, everything happened. And since then, I have actually moved into consulting work and hopefully, working on all of the things that you guys are interested in. So happy to help in any way I can here in Arizona. I would love to connect offline and talk more about that.
That'd be great. I think all of us can probably drop our email addresses in the chat. And then I forget your name, but the health network,
That's
health,
Lucy.
Lucy. My question to Lucy is, right now we're gathering case studies or examples of if there have been what examples exist out there of sustainable digital inclusion initiatives through partnerships. So I wonder if Lucy has any examples from the healthcare sector. That would be something and ask from me to y'all if you have any, if you've identified or heard of or identified any programs like that. We have an example in Cuyahoga County. And then there's an example out there of a healthcare entity reducing costs. I'm not sure if they reinvested the cost savings back into digital inclusion work, but right now we're doing a landscape analysis. So if you've heard of anything, send them our way.
And totally, and vice versa. We're doing kind of a national comparison too, right? So however we can kind of highlight and amplify each other's stories would be awesome. So we are just kind of kicking off what the task force decided to focus on for this fall. So come along for the ride. Kelly I can never, Kurchi, she runs the AZ1 map out of ASU. I don't think that she's on here. She also has been capturing a lot of stories. I will put her website in the chat as well because there's a lot of great stories that are actually mapped throughout the state from there also. But thanks for mentioning it. And I had to pop off during most of your presentation because my electrician came in. But anybody that is into fun, sustainable connectivity and rise the bar here is someone we want to connect with. So my contact is in the chat. And so would love to have somebody from your organization join us because it's amazing the stories that are uncovered in our small little group.
Yeah, I agree. We also have a something that is dear to my heart called our ripple effect research I just call it ripple effect. So it's, one drop of, okay, a community gets connectivity, and then what happens? All of the economic development, jobs creation, new businesses that come to town because of that connectivity. So would also love to hear any stories to that regard.
And we are like, what happens to just within the family? The ripple effect, even within the
Oh, yeah, right.
kind of have like a micro and macro effect on that. So, like, our hypothesis is one certified ambassador in a family can reduce costs for themselves and their families, or healthcare associated costs. And so it's just that's what we're looking to study also. Oh, yay, Aaron, thank you for putting in the AZ1 map down.
Yeah, you'll certainly need to meet Samantha. She did a longitudinal study after BTOP about what happens when one person within a network gets the skills to connect, and then they start teaching their family members, and then it ripples out from there. Um, she has a whole research report about that, so I'll definitely connect you too. I think that sounds like a good connection to make. Yeah.
We did some work
Erica,
in
can you
Cuyahoga
put,
also.
sorry, go ahead. Erica, I just wanted to know if you could put that report, a link to that report in the chat, because I'm one of those original BTOP grant
Ah, okay.
workers. I worked in through the state library. We got a couple of huge grants. One was for workforce development through the libraries, and the second was to provide um, enough I mean, we never have enough, but to provide public access computers in libraries. I mean, in those days, it was kind of, there were lines of people waiting to use the library computers, but now most libraries have a lot of, uh, most of the work they do is using public access computers. Also, I wanted to share with you that I work with the public libraries on telehealth. So we've provided telehealth kits, backpack kits, we call it, with some vital equipment that they would need, like no touch thermometer, weigh scale, blood pressure equipment, a stethoscope, those kind of things that you can use to connect with your doctor through the library computers using Zoom or whatever software the doctors choose to use to connect. And they can take their vitals in the library using that equipment. And this is some of the libraries loan it out because libraries can, they're good at loaning out, and they can do it for patients that have pre-op or post-op care needs, so they don't have to go all the way, drive an hour or so one way in order to be able to, get 10 minutes with a doctor for a pre-op situation or post-op situation. So I'm also working with the Southwest Telehealth Resource Center, where they've received a grant to loan equipment, for I would call it maybe for physical therapy kind of thing that they would need post-op. And we're working on what equipment we need to give them, like weights or um, stretch tapes, whatever you may call it, different things that are easily stockable in libraries and easily loanable through libraries to the community, um, and easily replaceable too, things like that. I'm working on that with the Southwest Telehealth Resource Center. So just want to let you know, and I'm working with Lucy also on, uh, you know, uh, publicizing Force for Health through libraries. Uh, Lots of exciting things happening in Arizona in the health sector.
Awesome. I'm sure we'll connect. I'm gonna go on mute and try and find that report, but Deb and Silas can definitely answer more questions. And I do think like one thing that they didn't mention that I think is super cool is their forward thinking on data sovereignty and owning your own data versus an ISP owning data, especially when you're dealing with issues like health, who now owns the information you've shared with your provider online as it passes through an ISP. So um, one cool thing that I think about.
So Erica, Mala beat me to it. I was just about to introduce you to her because she is engaged in so many really cool projects. And the state library, of course, reaches throughout the state. So they got a good handle on who's doing what. So they're definitely a partner that you guys want to connect with.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Just to kind of riff off a little bit what Erica was saying too. I'm a little older school. I remember when privacy was a was something we talked about, but I think it's important that people have choice of how their data is managed, and right now it feels like that's sort of going by the wayside that people in order to have access to these essential tools online or sort of not getting that choice. They have that's a prerequisite to access is giving up your privacy and sovereignty. So that's just something that we want to empower communities to have some agency over that, whether that's through municipal governance or having choice over ISP or whatever that looks like. I think there's a lot of different ways to achieve that, but I appreciate Erica that you brought that up. I think it's really important, and it's one of those things that I think we've neglected to spend a bit of time on, and unfortunately are reaping some of the consequences of not upholding that.
So, Deborah and Erica, can you maybe talk a little more about the process of how you collaborate with communities? When we started this task force a long time ago, we were a big believer in broadband action teams. And although I'm not sure that we developed them, but communities that have been successful in getting funding have created whatever you want to call them, community action teams. And now there's people like what Matt's doing and others who are now providing technical assistance to groups. And in my opinion, that we also need to be looking at doing the same thing in digital inclusion and are making sure that digital inclusion gets included in those community plans. Can you talk at all about, anything you might be doing in those spaces?
Yeah, I think that our approach to sustainability is about partnering with community kind of anchor institutions. So you'll see always our go to market in new areas, and we're actually operating in many different states, most often rural or low income urban. But that beginning is kind of what the work that like Sai is doing in the field right now, which is making connection with your, municipal, your schools, libraries, food banks, anyone there that's doing that like vital work in the community. This also helps to understand fundamental needs because that's going to look different. Like there is it to your point, that's where broadband action teams are really shine because there isn't a cookie cutter approach. I mean, we've seen, this is why we've heard this term of like bankruptcy G, right? A lot of the operators are struggling right now, trying to put in cookie cutter scaling techniques when each community is different and the choices are different. So it's a lot about that, listening and empathizing and then iterating on the process together with the community. And our model, actually, we usually co-locate our vertical assets where we can then automatically return some of that revenue back. We worked with a community called Wave 7 or an ISP that also Connect Humanity has worked with too. And that's their model. They have a church, they have a city, and then they locate kind of the vertical assets there. And then the software will actually revenue share back to those community entities. So some of that, at least a good part of that value stays local as well. And that happens kind of automatically as the network gets used.
So we have a couple of people from Pima Community College who are on this call today, and I don't want to put them on if either of them want to jump in, but I am a big believer when you talk about sustainability that community colleges in particular can play a great role in talking about sustainability and digital inclusion and the need to have strategic plans for community colleges and so forth on how they can best serve the multiple communities that are associated with a community college. Wondering if you have any thoughts or whatever about that.
one of the interesting ways that community colleges or college in general have played a role in broadband is through at least for a while, there was the spectrum, which is one of the scarce resources in broadband, at least on the wireless side. So it'll be interesting, or NRENs as well, right? So it'll be interesting to see if that can continue or perhaps even enhance is being able to work with community colleges to hold that spectrum and utilize that for community good instead of just commercial use cases. Um, and the other kind of major thing with colleges is they're often forward thinking, right? So this is where we can think about new ways to do things when maybe the old way of doing things doesn't quite work well. And it's also about educating the people to make better decisions and choices. So I think there's a lot in terms of workforce, resource allocation, in the communities themselves.
Oh, I know you've got something to say.
Uh, well, no, I would certainly agree. I think there's a lot of things happening at community colleges, especially with workforce development, micro-credentialing, bachelor programs now in Arizona. Like, for instance, in the Maricopa Community Colleges, we're now offering bachelor programs. And we've seen a fairly major uptick in that. I know at my college, we've got a lot of IT students now. And I will say that a good portion of my students are um, majority minority and female, and I've seen a turnaround. So I really would like to say that yes, community colleges, they're grounded in the communities to which they serve, and often have tremendous contacts and reaches into the neighboring um, areas and the businesses, right? And if you look at the community college graduates, there's a lot of people who go on and transfer to the big three-letter institutions, but there's a lot that actually do stay within community colleges and pursue other degrees after they've completed their community college experience. Um, so I really do think that community colleges are an integral hub into the local communities, and in particular in rural communities where you don't have the presence of like the three-letter research institutions. But what you do have is you generally have a good library and you got a good community college. And the community college is really tied to their local area because they're so often the single place where somebody can get an in-person experience. Yes, everyone can get a remote experience this today from almost anywhere in the world, even through private providers like Coursera and edX. But I really think that the local brick and mortar places have tremendous assets that are undervalued and underutilized. And those places have resources that our communities need to not overlook, but actually need to realize that, hey, just down the road, we've got a state-of-the-art automotive center, or we've got a cybersecurity center, or we've got an audio production area. Every college has their own niches. And so I just as an appeal to everyone on this call, go tour your local community college. If you've not done that, make a point to do it because you might actually learn more about what's happening behind the brick that you would normally see if you just drive by. But look up behind the brick because behind the brick, you will find that there is an entrepreneurial spirit and there's a lot of amazing things that are happening in our community colleges. So I will jump off that soapbox. Maybe I'll write a song about it. Actually, I think I have. I'll see if I can find it and I'll drop it in the chat. But anyway, there we go.
Paul, just to kind of riff on that just a little bit is, probably in the last year, we have served as a site for maybe 15 different universities. Yes, two community colleges, but the big, 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 big difference is that the university kids come and go, right? Like my University of Arizona, nobody's like just here and living in Tucson or like at their college. And so the community colleges are just so rich for everything across the board to accelerate impact. I truly believe that. So just making that point also.
And
So
then
Mark, I'm sorry, go ahead.
to go back a few questions about how communities get involved and are there task forces that have been stood up. In our experience, yeah, we don't force there to be a task force. Oftentimes, there's one that may already exist, or maybe an individual who is a believer, like I'm going to get my community connected, and a group will be built up around that person. And then when Connect Humanity comes in and starts finding those people and uplifting their voices and connecting them to regional and national experts, a task force frequently does naturally form and become formalized. We have one such task force within our organization. They operate in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. And prior to that, we also had a program called the Indigenous Connectivity Institute, which we sponsored for about a year, and then they spun out to an Indigenous-led organization, which was planned and was absolutely wonderful. So we both we uplift task force that already exist. We help establish task forces, and then we also can provide fiscal sponsorship type relationships as well for entities who are just getting started and maybe are applying for grants but need that operational support background backbone to be able to, grow and succeed. So, yeah, we see it all the time. Frequently, community colleges are part of those task forces, as well as local universities. In South Texas, they just applied for a $5 million workforce development grant to get more folks trained on how to build and operate fiber networks. That is in partnership with a workforce development solutions entity who is partnered with the local community college to get students trained and have micro credentials, just as you said, Paul. So, yeah, we see it a lot. It is a very successful model that, certainly can and should be replicated.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Deborah or Erica or Silas? I take that to be a no. Lucy, anything more that you want to add before we move on?
Nope, it's all good.
Okay. Michelle, you want to just talk a little bit about what you guys are doing? Michelle, are you there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. It's just I'm driving in the car, so it took me a
Oh,
second
okay.
there. So sorry. Um, sure. Michelle Simon, Director of Pima County's Office of Digital Inclusion. Um, uh, in our office here, we are currently overseeing a $43 million middle mile project that is being funded by NTIA. And we are also, we've implemented a digital navigator program that was a pilot, but it started as a pilot program with Comcast. They helped to support us in that effort. And now we are uh, expanding that by working with our local one-stop office to create an internship program for out-of-school youth. And one-stop, they call youth through the age of 23. So these will be individuals between 18 and 23 that will be that'll learn how to be digital navigators and go work in community-based organizations as part of the internship program. And it is a paid internship. And we're creating some different partnerships along the way. And Pima County did receive a broadband technical assistance grant that we are currently working on a feasibility study, broadband gap and feasibility study that is inclusive of both Pima and Santa Cruz counties. And we are just starting that. So there's a very large community engagement piece that will happen here probably starting in October. So we'll be doing a lot of community meetings, and then connecting with our community anchor institutions, so that we can really find out, to the point of that was being said earlier, what each unique community needs, because the focus on the broadband technical assistance grant is about our rural areas. And in Pima County, our urban core is centered around Tucson, but we have communities that are more than 2 hours away from the center of Tucson. So we have a great expanse of land in making sure that everyone can get internet. And the infrastructure is definitely lacking. So we're working on all those things. So thanks for that opportunity, Steve.
You bet. Well, as you know, Michelle, I always think you're a rock star and doing amazing stuff. One of the great examples of a community who got it together and is doing really good stuff. So thank you for your leadership on that project.
Thank you so much. And I should say that we also have a wonderful community advisory board that was born out of the Connect Pima task force that came together right after the first year of COVID to really address all of those issues. And a number of people on this call are part of that group.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Sean, can you introduce yourself? You probably have before, have a good memory, just a little short. Sean Condi, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm also driving. Yeah, Sean Condi. I work with Televeda. I am the director of community partnerships at Televeda.
You want to tell people about Televita? We've had you guys, I think, present some time ago, but you want to just kind of tell people about your organization, please?
Yeah, of course, happy to. So our ultimate goal is to work on combating social isolation, specifically among seniors and veterans. And so we have kind of two verticals that we work with. We work with health plans like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Mercy Care, UHC. And in those instances, what we do is we actually have digital navigators that will reach out to at-risk populations, specifically senior communities, and schedule appointments to meet with those individuals in person and help them with their digital literacy needs. And so we'll go out to do home visits or community visits and assist them with those needs. In some cases, we have caseworker referrals coming to us. In other cases, we're doing the outreach directly to the members. And then we also have our outreach to veterans where we're doing specifically mostly with tribal veterans, working, helping them put on talking circles, and helping them with connectivity through. We have our Roger That program where we are bringing Starlinks out to the reservations. We work with all 22 reservations in the state of Arizona, and we're delivering Starlinks out to them so that veterans can access their benefits, where typically there is no internet access or accessibility for them. And then we also help them put on those talking circles locally, and we also have virtual options as well.
Okay, any questions for Sean? Okay.
How do you spell the name of your organization there, Sean? I appreciate you sharing it. I'd love to connect. Televita. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So I just posted it in there. Yeah, when you say it, it's like, well, yeah, how do you spell it? So I totally understand. Yeah, we can definitely connect. Yeah, and I'll put my email in here as well. So
good thing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else today? Okay, well, if not, I think we are. Well, let me ask you this, well, because I always struggle with, okay, who's going to be presenting? I just talked to these guys like yesterday and said, hey, can you guys present? Of course, this week was a holiday, and so that kind of messed up my whole schedule of things. But anything in particular that you folks would like to hear about?
I'd say you gave us the opportunity. I really appreciate everybody talking about the work that they're doing and being able to be in a common area and speak with one another and make this connection. I have nothing but gratitude, Steve. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Silas. Appreciate it. Okay. Anything else for today? I believe we are done. Lucy, I do want to chat with you because I do want to get this page done. And so I want to make sure I'm reflecting everything correctly and have all the right logos and all that kind of good stuff. So um, let's chat. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
The calendar invite
Okay.
should have what you need, but I am here. So if
I think the page that you have probably has everything I need, but I just want to make sure I'm doing it all correctly.
of course.
Okay, if not, we're all done for today. Thank you all. Silas, Erica, Deborah, thank you very much for being here this morning. I think it was very informative, and I think a lot of folks will be interested in collaborating with you.
Yeah, thank you. And send us an email if you want to connect.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Bye out.
Gordon, you've been so quiet.